Well, as Dr. Percy and others have said, it is quite clear that common sense is beginning to prevail in the Electoral Commission. And that's welcome news. I mean, all the measures they've announced were measures that we canvassed and they kicked against. So if they come back to their senses, that's good news. There's one little area, not a little area, a major area, that I am still very worried about. And this is the packing of the EC with card-bearing MPP members. That's frightening. And I do hope that we as Ghanaians will collectively be able to do something about it before December 7th.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But everything I say about this criminal regime is carefully weighed. Now, as for the EC, it appears from the statements being made by my friends in the NDC that there has been an outbreak of common sense. But from where I sit, I noticed that the New Patriotic Party is comfortable with everything the EC does. But why wouldn't they be comfortable? Because with the ouster of Salotase and the installation of the new EC composed and led by Jane Mensah, the EC was effectively converted into a bureau of the New Patriotic Party. Now, the instruments for rigging are still there. One of them is the introduction and maintenance of regional collation. One of them is the introduction and maintenance of regional collation, which allows padding to go on if it cannot be done at the constituency level, to be done at the regional level, to assure that results come in the way the regime wants. I look forward to listening to the MPP if and when they go into opposition, whether they will still parrot this nonsense about the independence of the EC, whether they'll be so sanguine to the extent that they tell us the EC's reasons for the crazy decisions that they make. I was also disappointed that the NDC went back to the EC without a clear statement about why they left and what assurances they have received. Because as far as I see it, the IPAC remains a bulletin board. Far from what it had become, which was a platform for generating consensus. And I say this because I was a member representing my party on the IPAC from the period, I believe, 1999 through the low order of the 2000s. I represented my party at IPAC. So I know that before 2000, we were in the same corner with the MPP when we opposed ROPAL. When the MPP took power, when they wanted to reintroduce ROPAL, we went on a demonstration. They beat the hell out of us. Some of my colleagues are dead because of that. So, as for the MPP, well, every time they've been in power, they've turned the previously under Kufuor, they just tried to take over contracting and otherwise. But right now, the EC, to all intents and purposes, it's a full part of the MPP headquarters. Is what the MPP determines that they do. I think they've decided that, look, this withdrawal of the, yes, was too blatant and difficult to rationalize. So they've bitten a retreat on that. But the intention remains the same, to steal the forthcoming elections for the NPP. And I still repeat, the NPP still has all the instruments of the executive to ensure that things go their way. They have control of the security apparatus, the police, the military. They have full control of the courts. Full control of the courts. And they have full control of the media. Private media and all. So I'm not very sanguine about the outbreak of common sense that appears to have come up. But there's all to fight for. And we live to see.
Can you imagine? And does it surprise you that even as of today, they are blaming Nkrumah for creating people like John Dramani Mahama and others? Do you know that? They are. One of them actually said on radio that if it hadn't been for that man Kwame Nkrumah, people like John Mahama would have been herding cattle. That is their place. It's Nkrumah who took them out of the vocation of herding cattle, and now they too want to be heads of states. I'm sure all of you heard these statements. And that's a reflection of the context at that time. You understand? That's a reflection of the context at that time. And we should not forget it. Now, if it comes to industrial development, it's another matter. This country was virtually producing nothing. Within 9 years, Nkrumah wanted us to produce our own shoes, our own garments, our own fish and meat. He wanted us to produce everything that we needed under an import substitution program. Come and see how they fought him. Come and see how they fought him. So, in a period of 9 years, Nkrumah actually established more than 400 enterprises for producing the needs of the Ghanaian people. We're producing our own cutlasses. We're producing our own shoes. We're producing our own matches, pine, kania, matches, and so on. And they hated him to the core. So, as soon as the 1966 coup succeeded, one of their prime objectives was to collapse all of those industries and enterprises Nkrumah had established. And that is when privatization started in earnest. Privatization of state enterprises started in earnest. Of course, that project was embraced by the Rawlings-led NDC, PNDC. They continued it with vigor. To the extent that today, we are importing toothpicks. We import toothpicks. We import matches. Matches which are being produced at today, we are importing it now. What are we not importing? Chicken parts. We are even importing guinea fowls from Denmark. Ghana is the third largest importer of tomato paste from Germany. That is where we have come after the 1966 coup. Unbelievable. That's where we have come.
That was our destination.
That is where we have come after the 1966 coup. Now, you know, this people, they have been always shouting about how private enterprise somehow is the engine of growth. I look at them and I laugh. You know why I laugh? Because as soon as they capture power, all of them will run from the private enterprise into the state sector. All of them. If the private sector is the engine of growth, stay in your private sector and engine the growth. Watch. All of them are running to the public sector. Even the small public sector that is left. That is where they want. You see this white gown wearing, Bible reciting finance minister. You see him? He was running a company called Data Bank in the private sector, maybe so.
Yes.
As soon as they grabbed power, bam, Ministry of Finance went and sat there. He was appointed. He went and sat there. All the key people in Data Bank now find themselves working in the ministries as advisors and so on. They were running the state, not private enterprise. How can private enterprise be the engine of growth? Does it make sense? Private enterprise operates only on one motive: profit making and profit maximization. That's the only motive. How do you subject the health of your people to an arrangement which is based only on the accumulation of surplus value? How? How do you subject the education of your population to private enterprise whose raison d'etre, is that how they say it? Raison d'etre. Hey, person, you can speak French too. Whose raison d'etre is making profit. It simply doesn't make sense. Now, Senna, listen to me very, very carefully. You see, they say the private enterprise is the engine of growth. First of all of them are running from the private sector to the state sector. That is number one. Number two, we privatized more than 400 enterprises, state enterprises. We gave them to the private sector to run. Senna, how many of them survived? In the hands of the private sector, how many of them survived?
We have to take them back.
2 out of more than 400. And do you know the ones who survived? Golden Tulip, now Lancaster Hotel, and Moving Peak Ambassador. Finish. All the rest collapsed. The magic hands of the private sector could not sustain these state enterprises. They killed them. And we are still parroting this nonsense of the private sector being the engine of growth. Absolute nonsense of the private sector being the engine of growth. What is growth? Because we have been declining systematically from 1966. Declining, going down, sinking from 1966. When we started parroting this nonsense of the private sector being the engine of growth, we haven't moved one step forward. Show me one step forward. Now, even for some of the projects which they have embarked upon, some, for various reasons, they've been compelled to embark on some of the projects. All those projects can be found in the 7-year development plan of Kwame Nkrumah. President Kufuor came, took loans and so on, and built the Bui Dam. Where is the origin of the Bui Dam? It's in the 7-year development plan of Kwame Nkrumah. Not just that. By the time of February 24, 1966, when the coup occurred, Soviet engineers were already on the ground building the dam. Soviet engineers had already arrived in the country to build the dam, and they were expelled. You understand? So even the Bui Dam project that they built was the result of the visionary leadership and thinking of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and the Convention People's Party. Clear? Okay? Now, look at where we are. Look at where we are. And I must show my admiration for Solomon Owusu. His description of the state of Ghana today is apt. You go to buy kinky, way. You want to send your children to school, way. Whatever you want to do, way. You want to buy petrol, hey, stop there. So Solomon captures where we are perfectly. And from his presentation, it is obvious that we are not turning any corner.
No.
In fact, if there's a corner that this economic model will turn, it's a corner into a ditch. You understand? I get amazed when I hear propagandists of this government talk about the fact that the cedi has now stabilized. Stabilized at what rate? If it is true that it has stabilized. 13 cedis, 60 pesos to $1. When they took office, it was 3 cedis, 40 pesos or so to $1. So if you take the cedi from 3 cedis, 60 pesos or 40 pesos to $1, to more than 13 cedis per dollar, and you look us in the face and you say, the economy is turning the corner. What do you take us for? You think they're yo-yos? They should stop that thing about turning the corner. Which corner? It's so annoying when you hear these people talking about turning the corner and so on. And they make some claims. You see, when they make these claims, ask them for their own data and examine it, and you'll find something interesting. The other day, I was engaged in a discussion with one of their propagandists who was beating his chest and claiming that, look, when it comes to road construction, they, since independence, have constructed more roads than any government. Senna, and he was reading from a book. So when he finished his presentation, I took the book to try and read what he was reading. Do you know what I found? For the 7-year period, they have only constructed 615 kilometers of new roads. 615 kilometers. That is what they claim is the best record. Do you know what they do? They have different categories of roadworks. Pothole filling, asphalt overlay, construction of bridges and so on. So they have these different categories. So if there's a road which has 25 potholes and they go and fill it, they add it to the figure. If there's an existing